Hello, young historians. My name is Mrs. Cosins. I teach fourth grade at Swansboro, and I'm so excited to be here with you today. I know we're not in school right now, and I know a lot of you are missing your teachers and your classrooms and history. And so I wanted to take a minute to do a history lesson with you that you can watch at home, and so hopefully you can learn a little bit more. I hope you and your family are doing well and staying healthy. Um, Make sure that you are taking time to relax and play, but make sure that you're washing your hands and doing everything that you can to stay healthy and keep your family healthy. So, without further ado, let's get started. You might have watched the introductory video about what history is, and you might have watched a video following that about primary and secondary sources. So if you remember, if you put your thinking cap on, you remember that history are the ways that we remember the past. So we're going to talk today about some of the tools that we use, one tool in particular, timelines, as ways that we remember history. We're also going to be talking about primary sources, which, if you remember, are sources that are actually made during the time period you're talking about. So if we're talking about a Civil War primary source, it's a journal or a photograph or a picture from that actual time that somebody made. So let's get started with our topic for today. I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can see what I see. So as we know, the videos that we're doing are deep dives into historical skills and thinking. The way that we do this is by doing a little topic each week to help us understand us and understand history, because that's what it is. It's understanding ourselves and what's going on during our lives and the lives of other people in the past. So for this lesson, just to make sure you're prepared to do the activities and take some notes, you're going to need a notebook and a pen or a pencil. So feel free to pause this video if you need a minute to get those materials. But if you're ready to go, let's get started. Let's start with our words of the day. We have 2 words of the day. You're always going to have some vocabulary to help you remember. And this is a really great use of your pen and your pencil and your notebook. So the first word that is our word of the day is chronological. Say it with me. Chronological. Take a minute. Think about if you've heard this word before. Say it out loud again. I'll say it one more time. Chronological. Think about what the word chronological means to you. If you have some questions, you might want to write this word down and put a question mark next to it. And you can see our timer in the corner, the little happy timer. That's to give you some think time. Just like your teacher gives you time to think during school, I'm going to give you some time to think. Okay, if you need more time, feel free to pause the video. But let's talk about what the word chronological means. Chronological means arranged in the order that it happened. So if I'm starting with when I woke up, that's when I would start with. Okay, that's chronologically. So I would start with when I woke up and I would end with when I went to bed. That would be in chronological order. If I'm talking about a story that I read, I'm going to go chronologically if I talk about the beginning, then the middle, then the end. Can you think of some reasons why we might want to show events chronologically? Think about that. All right, now share with me. What do you think? Why would we share events chronologically? Ooh, I heard some really good answers. One that I heard was that it helps us understand the order. If I start with the end and then I go to the middle, that's going to confuse the people who I'm talking to. So it's going to help me understand better the reasons why things happened in the order they did and the actual order. All right, great job. Hopefully you wrote that word down. Chronological, you're going to need it later for a game that we play. If you didn't, pause the video, write it down. Our second word of the day is timeline. You might have some experience with timelines from your history lessons, from books you've read. Take a minute. Our timer is waiting for us. All right, this is going to be another important word to write down. Remember, pause the video if you need some more time. Timelines. These timelines show events chronologically, which was our first word of the day, starting with the first event and continuing in order until the end. Timelines can help us understand causes or why something happens and affects the event. So you can see on my screen, this really simple timeline starts in 2014 and ends in 2017. So we're going to talk more about how timelines look and what they do in this video. But if I'm giving you an example to help us understand this second sentence about causes and effects, maybe something that happened in 2014 to me caused something to happen in 2015. So if the event in 2015 is that I made the basketball team, maybe the cause of that was that all of the year of 2014, I practiced every single weekday. So my cause was that in 2014, I practiced every day. The effect is that in 2015, I got on the team. So these timelines can help us. If we actually have text underneath each of these dates, it gives me an idea of why things happened. All right, so let's jump in to some timelines. I'm going to give you some think time. Tell me what you notice, what questions you have. Let's think about what these timelines show us and why. Take a minute. This is a timeline of Barack Obama's life. We know Barack Obama is still alive. We know he was the president. Let's look at some of these events. Call out what you see and what you notice. I heard that this timeline about Barack Obama starts in 1961. That's a really great observation, historian. That lets me know that that's going to be the beginning of this story. We can kind of see timelines as a simple story, like a summary, if you will, from language arts. 1961, Barack Obama was born in Honolulu, Hawaii. Okay, that's the beginning. We can see that this is going to go chronologically. You can see our next jump is from 1961 to 2004. So all of these events that happened in his younger life caused him to build up in 2004 to being elected to the US Senate. So he was a part of this lawmaking body. And then in 2008, he was elected president. His prior experience with the law and government caused him to get elected president. We can see that this timeline keeps going and gives us more events. And Barack Obama has an awesome history and an awesome life. So maybe for our mission, you're going to have a chance to create your own timeline. So maybe you want to come back to this timeline and use Barack Obama as your example. Let's look at another timeline. Take a second. Shout out what you notice. You can write it down. Think about what this timeline is about. Yeah, you might notice some of these social media websites and apps that are really familiar to you. So social media is something that we use all the time, and this is giving us the history of these popular social media platforms. I noticed something different about this timeline than the last one. Can you tell me what you noticed about this one? If you said that this timeline is set up vertically or up and down, you're exactly right. But if you notice, it's still laying out these events chronologically. The first event on this timeline starts at 2002 with LinkedIn. And I have all of these descriptions to tell me what they are. Going next on the timeline is Facebook, then YouTube, Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, and Pinterest. If I notice, Instagram is in 2010 and so is Pinterest. But since Pinterest is further down the line, I know that that happened last on this timeline. So again, this is still showing me events in chronological order. It's just set up vertically instead of horizontally. So I wanted to show you a book from getepic.com about Thomas Jefferson that also includes a timeline. I'm going to show that one to you as this loads. So Thomas Jefferson, this is a timeline about his life that's actually within a book. So if I wanted to create a timeline about Thomas Jefferson, I could go to Get Epic, type in Thomas Jefferson, and see this timeline for myself. So this is actually page 6 of a book by Megan M. Gunderson. I can see that this timeline is set up horizontal or left to right, but once again, it's showing me events in chronological order, starting with 1743. That Thomas Jefferson was born in that year on April 13th in Shadwell, Virginia. And it keeps going on, goes from 1743 to 1776, all the way to 1826 at his death at Monticello. So you might know a lot about Thomas Jefferson, but you might want to learn more about him. And Get Epic is a free website that gives you tons of books about him. But once again, I can see on this timeline all of these important events in chronological order. So it's telling me when he was born. We might know from history and Virginia studies that he was the author of the Declaration of Independence. Remember, that document broke the ties with England and the colonies. He was elected the governor of Virginia. He served as the first US Secretary of State. Then he became the vice president, then the third president. Then he purchased the Louisiana Territory, and then he passed away. So this is going through all of these huge accomplishments of Thomas Jefferson. So if I wanted to read this book about him, I could go in and see all of the events and descriptions of them. So I'm going to leave that text up there for you that you can pause the video, write that book title down, and go back in and read that on Epic. So now that we have looked at all of these timelines and talked about what they are, we're going to play a game. So I'm going to give you a chance. If you need to pause and go back before I ask you some questions, feel free to do that. But here is our challenge. We're going to play a game of 3 questions, and there are 20 points up for grabs. So I'm going to ask you the question, I'm going to give you some think time, and then we're going to answer together. I need you to be collecting your points, writing down how many points you get for each question, and then at the end, we're going to come back together and you're going to get your mission. So, ready? Give me a thumbs up when you're ready to go. All right, let's begin. Question number 1 for 5 points. What is a timeline? I'm going to give you 2 options, but I think you can think about what this is without the options there for you. So use your brain, think about what a timeline is. All right, for 5 points, is a timeline 1, a way to show events chronologically or in the order they happen from start to finish? Or is a timeline number 2, a way to show all of your favorite things using pictures? Option number 1 is correct. So if you got option number 1 correct, pat yourself on the back. You get 5 points. Make sure you write that down. Timelines are a way to show events chronologically. We know that that chronologically means in the order from where they started to where they finished. So we saw on that Barack Obama timeline, starts with the year he was born, and then it ended with the last event that that author chose to include. With Thomas Jefferson, it started with the year he was born and ended with the year he passed away. 5 points on your paper if you got that correct. Awesome job. Question number 2. This is also worth 5 points. What is chronological order? If you have your notes, this is a great use for them. Think time. All right, feel free to pause the video if you're not ready, but here are your options. Chronological order means starting with the least important thing and ending with the most important. That's option number 1. Or option number 2, chronological order means starting with the first event that happened and ending with the last. If you said option number 2, you are exactly right. 5 points on your paper. Chronological order means starting with the first event that happened and ending with the last. So we start in the beginning, wherever that is, and we end with the last event that we want to include in our timeline, or the end of the story, if you will. Last question. All right, this one's a little bit different. It's worth 10 points, and there's a timer as well. Question number 3, which of these is a timeline? So you can see I didn't include the pictures yet. I want you to think about what a timeline would look like. All right, here are your options. Is it number 1 or is it number 2? Feel free to pause the video. If you said option number 2, you are exactly right. Awesome job. This is a timeline. It shows the dates chronologically, starting in 1970 and ending in 2030. 10 points. You guys did an awesome job playing. I know I love to play games. That keeps me up and moving with the topic. So hopefully you have a better idea now than when we started about what timelines are. Awesome job. I hope you had fun. Thanks for playing. Now, we've gone over timelines, we've looked at them in books, we've looked at them on different topics, and we've played our review game. Now I'm going to leave you with your mission. Your mission is to create a timeline of someone in your family, a famous person you're interested in, or yourself. If you want to do research on a person, I gave you 2 examples of people you could research, Barack Obama or Thomas Jefferson. In order to do that research, you can use getepic.com, which is a free website with thousands of books online for you to research. You could also use Britannica School on Clever. So if you know how to log into Clever, Britannica School has awesome biographies of people with timelines ready for you, and you can create your own. I have a simple timeline here where you can plug in any dates that you want. So feel free, this is why you have your paper, your pencil, your pens. You can make it colorful, you can make it simple, however you want, and it can be on anyone that you want. One last resource before I set you free is called Chronicling America. I'm going to show you this very quickly. This is an awesome way if you're looking for ideas and you want to start with a long time ago. This actually, if you look at the top, says 100 years ago today. So maybe you want to start with a real newspaper from 100 years ago today. Maybe you want to start your timeline in 1920. So these newspaper issues are actually from April 8th, 1920, exactly 100 years ago today. So maybe I want to click on one of these real newspapers. Does anybody remember what these are called if these are real newspapers from the time? If you said primary source, you're absolutely correct. So maybe I want to start my timeline with a simple event. I can actually zoom in on my touch screen. You can zoom in on your computer or your iPad. Maybe I want to start with on April 8th, 1920, state road work began in North Dakota. Okay, maybe I want to do that. This is an actual newspaper article from Jamestown, North Dakota on Thursday, April 8th, 1920. That's just another way that you can make this timeline your own. You can start with whoever you want, whenever you want, wherever you want. I just want to give you lots of ideas. To wrap up, thank you so much for joining me today. You guys were an awesome audience and awesome students. I can't wait to see you and teach you more history lessons. But in the meantime, keep reading and learning. If you want to learn more about Thomas Jefferson, you can go to classroom.monticello.org. GetEpic.com is the resource with all of the free books. And Chronicling America was the website that I just told you about. You can go to chroniclingamerica.loc.gov for all of those primary sources from 100 years ago, and you can actually choose the date that you want to look at. I hope that you enjoyed this. I know I miss all of my students, but I'm so glad that I could be here with you today and teach you a history lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. It was so nice to meet you all and be with you. Thank you for joining me. Bye.